so that was one of the early rules that we decided to make. And once you've made it and you know you're going to hold to it, it doesn't really feel that difficult. So successful people know what they want, so they make decisions quickly and they hold to those decisions.
I love that.
Welcome to Elevate Utah.
Utah's #1 growth podcast.
I'm Court Brady.
I am Carlos Souza.
And today we have Chandler David Smith. Pumped to have you, bro.
Look at that intro. That's impressive.
You would not believe how many takes that usually takes we got on the first try.
We probably have done it over 150 times.
Yeah, probably. Chandler, your intro, bro. We're going to do a big throwback for you. Rookie of the Year at Active Environmental, your first year in door-to-door sales. And then you did, you were there for 12 years.
Yeah.
And then became VP, President of Sales, Regional. What was your title at the end?
Yeah, so I, started as a sales rep and then was a team lead, divisional, regional. And then when I stepped back at the time, I was a VP of sales. There were a couple of us, but.
Amazing. Yeah. And you're a real estate mogul. You have like 50 doors by now?
208.
What an insult, Court.
I knew you'd passed 200. Congrats, dude.
Thanks.
That's a new recent. You weren't over 200 last time we chatted.
Yeah. Yep. I think. Yeah, and I've bought like 16 units this year, and then a couple commercial buildings.
Congratulations.
So it's been fun.
I'm pulling the trigger on my first duplex.
It's exciting.
This week. It's under contract. YouTuber, public speaker, you've built all of this, and then you had this mix in the middle of your life where Maddie got cancer and subsequently passed away, and we want to talk a little bit about that. And you were a father of 2 at that point, and then you met another amazing woman, Jessica, and now you're the father of 5. And you're only 34, just barely. Happy birthday last week.
Thanks.
I tried to think of a few descriptors for you coming in, and I think that you're the most ambitious, intentional, grounded, and then this one stood out to me the most, mental strength. You just have the most mental strength of anyone that I've ever met. And so I think for the content of the podcast today, what people would want to hear is, what is your mindset and what has it been throughout your life, so that they can learn what you did so they can have what you've created. That'd be all right?
Yeah. No, well, first of all, that's really, really nice, Court. And I don't know. We also have to hit the fact that Court's been a best friend for years and years and years, and been there for me through all of it. So really appreciate you and love being here. This is really cool. It's so cool what you've created, and it's so fun. We were just talking about it, just being able to be with your friends and see their successes and kind of grow through the ups and the downs and all of it together. So really appreciate it. With your question though, I might have you ask it again.
Yeah, I'll ask it a bunch of times as we go through, but we're going to dissect your brain. We're going to figure out your Mamba mentality. Was it something you were born with, something you developed? I have a bunch of questions around that so that people can kind of get a deeper look into how you see the world and view the world. And the reason for the question is I see the majority of people as players in the game of life, and not directors. Like, they're on the stage acting things out as they're told, and there's a few people that live their life as the producer and the writer and the director, and I see you as that person shaping the world into what you want it to be and not just accepting what the world gives you. So I want to go through that in a bunch of different situations and hear your story at the same time. Chandler and I don't know if you know this, but Chandler is the best man at my wedding.
I didn't know.
And oftentimes people say how lucky they were in their entrepreneurial journey. I was super, super lucky. I got a good return on that luck. It was just super fortuitous. We were sitting next to each other in that economics class.
I got a better grade because of that relationship. So it all panned out, and among so many other things. But.
So Chan, let's just start. As a kid, Did you always have this belief that you were going to go shape the world?
I think growing up, I definitely had a little bit more of a chip on my shoulder because I did feel like I had a really strong work ethic, and the talent lagged, I guess. And it wasn't like I was super untalented, but I think I just grew up really believing that my superpower was how hard I worked. And so that was always a gauge. And I think my parents did a really good job of pointing out that, I wasn't the best or the most athletic or all those things. It wasn't like they were...
Your parents pointed that out to you?
Well, no, it wasn't like they were tearing me down, but they pointed out that like my thing was that I worked hard. And so, if you asked my one trait that I was most proud of at any point growing up, that would always be my answer, whether it was with sports or with side hustles that I started or mowing lawns or just anything, whether school, sports, any of that. I just really believed that I might not be more talented than someone, but I could always outwork them. And I think that stayed with me through all of life and probably was the one thing that I took ownership of that had the highest return is I could always outwork people.
When did that come about? Do you remember like a specific time?
I think earliest on was probably just school. Like I really worked hard when I was younger. Then I was the oldest in my family, and so I always wanted to be the one that did the yard work and that showed up for my parents and what they needed. It transferred over to sports. I always wanted to be able to, run whatever laps the fastest, even though I wasn't the fastest kid, and outwork in whatever drill. And then I started a lawn mowing business when I was younger. And so I took a lot of pride in with sports and school and everything else, also taking on a bunch of lawns and, making more money because I could outwork other kids while they were getting other jobs or not working at all. But I was saving up off of mowing lawns. And so the combination of all of those things really helped me get to the point where I had a high level of confidence I could outwork anyone.
For what purpose were you working so hard at that time? Was it you wanted some extra money? You wanted to prove something to somebody else? Can you point or put your finger on?
I think I just took pride in working hard. I think too, when you feel or you create this idea that you're less talented, it's nice to have a chip on your shoulder. And I think that's played a big role in my life, is having this chip of, you may have made the team when I got cut, or you may have, got the girl when I didn't, or whatever it was. But in the long run, I can outwork you and I can create the life that is going to be better in every category purely by outworking you.
Awesome.
I'm curious about that. Those would almost be described as self-limiting beliefs. Do you sincerely believe that you genuinely believe that you were less talented than others growing up?
I think that you're right that they were limiting. And I think that door-to-door sales especially is where it pivoted to where it went from like work ethic is here and skill set is here to, in the long run, work ethic equals skill set. But I think that's a big reason I struggled with confidence up until being successful in door-to-door sales. I didn't struggle with confidence in my work ethic, but I did in my abilities. And once I realized that work ethic transitioned to abilities as well, then I gained confidence, and that's when all the pieces kind of came together.
How do you help that click in someone else's mind?
That's hard. But I think if you prioritize work ethic and anyone's in a place where that is their priority, they'll hit a point where the reps they've put in will pay off and it just naturally will come. I think a lot of times it's like, oh, what do you do to get someone to get the confidence? And confidence comes because you put the reps in. I don't think I've ever met someone that's put in more reps than anyone else in any category and not gotten to the point where they have a high level of confidence.
Can you walk us through your first week of door-to-door sales?
Yeah, I went out and I sold nothing over and over and over again with lots and lots of no's. And it it. I worked super, super hard. I knocked tons of doors, and all I got was no for, it ended up being, I think, almost 2 weeks straight before finally I got that first yes.
I've never had a single day in door-to-door sales where I didn't and well, just got like, and I never, you went on to break the rookie record to do something that had never been done, and then to go on and have more recruits than the company had in total recruits when we started with Altera at that time. And I think it just goes to show, like, it doesn't matter where you start at. If there's just this unrelenting drive and perseverance and push, the end result will be inevitable. It has to come about.
Yeah, and I tell that story so much, and I think it really helped me recognize that was one of those big aha moments in my life where that sell might have been a rollover that anyone would have sold. And maybe it was pure luck that I had weeks where I didn't run into a rollover where other people have. But that really solidified for me, hey, if I work super, super hard and put in the reps and practice and train and do all the things that no one else has done, even if naturally I obviously was worse than everyone else, if I put in enough reps, I can get to the point where I'm better than anyone else. And I think that's a big reason I ended up going on to break the record is I saw this huge transformation of no cells for weeks to 4 cells in 1 day after working hard. And so I kept that mindset the whole summer where everyone else, once you get a cell, it's like, cool, now we just do the job. Where me every day was, I can get better by putting in these reps. Every rep I did, I was becoming a better salesman in my mind. And I think that is a big thing that I've carried on into everything I do, whether it's parenting, schooling, real estate, whatever it is, it's just continuing to put notches on my belt of I deserve more confidence because I put in the reps.
Let's not give you, so yes, I agree with that, but you're still a college dropout. We still need to make that clear. The podcast, you only put in so many reps there, but you are in good company because we're all college dropouts on this podcast.
It's a good place to be.
It's a perfect place to be, having one more semester, probably less than that, one more class for you. You said more reps equals more confidence. This whole idea of positive affirmations, where does that fall into the confidence, or is it just put in more reps and you're going to build your confidence?
I'm a huge believer in positive affirmations, but I think if you're struggling, if you just do the thing, then you're going to get the results, and it's going to be a lot better to be optimistic. I see a lot of people not doing the thing and trying to positive affirmation their way into success. And I don't know. I think there's a quote that I love, and Jessica shared it with me. And it's, if you can't live the dream, live the theme. And it's a much bigger quote for some of the heavier things in my life. But the more simple things, I think often we don't feel like doing the thing. And when you don't feel like doing the thing and you do, then the positive everything comes. But if you don't feel like doing the thing and you don't, it's hard to give yourself positive affirmations when you know you should have done it and you didn't, just because you felt like not doing it. Does that make sense?
Totally. So the next thing in your life that I wanted to go into your mindset in is you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment. You're making 6 figures, and you and Maddie make this commitment. You guys are living the apartment under us. Maddie would often talk about how loud I stomped my feet when I would walk around. And you guys make this commitment. We're not going to spend any money above our passive income. And you have extensive income and can go and buy lots of things, and you guys make this decision. Can you talk about that experience, your mindset, the discipline that took?
Yeah, I think I'm a big believer in making your life an algorithm, because one of my favorite quotes that I always use with sales reps is successful people know what they want, so they make decisions quickly and they hold to those decisions. And so I think the more things in your life you can make rules, and then consistently hold to those rules, you spend a lot less time tormented with what decisions to make. And so that was one of the early rules that we decided to make. And once you've made it and you know you're going to hold to it, it doesn't really feel that difficult. There are lots of people living in a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, that's not a crazy thing. Now, we were making, 6 figures and then some from our sales job, and it was crazy money from the lives that we'd grown up with or what our expectations were. But because we made that rule, it really wasn't that difficult to live in a 2-bedroom apartment and just spend all of that excess money on investing in real estate. And then getting to the point where we saw the benefit of that because of where our cash flow got, it was even easier to live it into the future, because choosing to only live off of our cash flow, once we got to the lifestyle we were at, then every time we bought a rental property, the cash flow just increased our lifestyle. And so it became even more exciting to buy rental properties, and we were still getting to get that lifestyle. We were just doing it in a way that, we had made correct rules so that we could have our long-term dreams. And I think when you create that algorithm for any decision, whether it's time with family, friends, your business, your money, whatever it is, if the rule's made and then you don't have to think about it, life is actually a lot easier. There's a lot less torment. It doesn't seem like doing the hard thing because the algorithm's already in place. And then you don't question those decisions because you know how to make them.
So I feel like somebody could be hearing that and say, yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm going to go do that. And then tomorrow say, well, yeah, I committed to doing this thing, but I really how did you go through day 1 and day 2 and year 3 and you have a beautiful house, you have cars, you travel, and everything in your life, tell me if this is incorrect, but everything in your life is paid for with passive income because you set that goal and you held to it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How?
This is always a tricky question for me because it seems so much harder now, right? Like having over $1 million a year of cash flow from my rental properties, I'm like, man, I can't imagine going back to living on 20 grand, 30 grand with a family. Like, that just seems incomprehensible. And I think it was the same with door-to-door sales, where I just didn't cheat, right? And I don't know if you've noticed this with a diet or with anything else. Once you've done something for a long enough period of time, then it's a habit. And if you just never break from it, it's not hard. What is hard is the starting of doing it. And I think that my mindset after my mission and then after door-to-door sales, extreme things where I'd made extreme rules of, I just knock doors. I don't sit on the curb. I don't go in early. I was one of the few people that can honestly say I worked every freaking hour. Like, I really didn't let off the gas until probably year 3 or 4 of door-to-door sales, where then I was trying to be a leader and I was trying to fulfill other responsibilities. But I think I lived such an extreme life and I didn't bend in any areas that it seemed really easy. Where now I live a life that's a lot more complicated when I was dealing with sales reps and real estate and family. And once it gets more complex, now it seems harder with certain things, where before it didn't because I was just so extreme. And I think a lot of times it takes something very, very extreme to make it not difficult, because if you hover in the middle ground where it's not extreme, it's easier to kind of cheat on yourself.
I was just having this conversation today with a good friend of mine, and this person is struggling with just a lot of they don't know why they made certain decisions in their lives, and they regret certain decisions they made. They just feel lost, right? And then I was trying to help this person realize that it seems like the wind is kind of dictating her actions instead of her actually, what are your values, and let them drive you. And then I'm curious to know, like, you're talking about these rules, and you said, I don't want to misquote you, but you said successful people have rules. What was that quote again?
So successful people know what they want, so they make decisions quickly and they hold to those decisions.
I love that. What are other rules that you have in your life that you've had over the years that you would kind of attribute your success to? And second question, how does someone figure out what their values and rules are?
Yeah, I think those are both great questions. I've really pivoted over the last couple of years on how I think I want to answer this, and maybe I'll use an example of someone that I started using with my sales reps. His name was Tyler Fielding. I think he worked the same time as Court. And my values, my beliefs at the time were extreme for the benefit of income and success, right? And so my summers were not very fun because every hour I worked. And I think a lot of people say, like, there's no way you actually, got on the doors every day and knocked past dark every day and held to that every single day of the summer. But I just did. Like, that was the extreme measures that I went to. Tyler Fielding did not, right? But the thing that I found very unique about Tyler Fielding, and the reason I like using him for this example, is I had lots of sales reps that didn't work the hours, but it wasn't intentional. So they would get out, they would sit on the curb, and they would be like, what am I doing here? And so now they're not doing anything to benefit their career, their finances, but they're also not doing anything that they enjoy. And so they're in this place where it's just purely wasted time. And there's no one that's going to say that was a good thing for them to do. It was completely unintentional or by the wind, like you described your friend. What I loved about Tyler is even though he wasn't living by my principles or my beliefs, he really did have a core belief that he would be more productive and be more happy with his life if he had a certain amount of fun, a certain amount of time with friends and family, a certain amount of, all of these other things that took away from work, but it was intentional. And so I would call him and he'd be like, yeah, I'm at the wake park, wakeboarding. And I'm like, you're supposed to be working. He's like, yeah. I'll be back on the doors tonight, And it drove me nuts, but he was intentionally living. And I've seen his life fall into place where his career right now, his life right now, is still very intentional. It's still filled with all of these fun things, and he's done a great job in his career. And so I think the big difference is intentional living, and I think recognizing that every light has a shadow. My extreme nature got me to an incredible place financially and with passive income, but there was a good chunk of my single life before I got married that was very extreme, that didn't have those experiences that now looking back I missed out on. Now, am I happy with my path? 100%. But is Tyler Fielding happy with his path? 100%. And he's someone I really look up to that's helped me shift and evolve to where, had I lived that extreme lifestyle where work and money was my only focus and I didn't give these other things attention, at this point in my life, I'd be very unhappy with the last couple of years and the time that I've spent with my wife and my kids and family and friends and hobbies and relationships that early on Chandler that was extreme wouldn't have. And I'm grateful for him and what he created for me, but I'm grateful too for how those have shifted. And I've realized that every light does have a shadow.
I love that. What kind of questions should someone ask themselves in order to find their, like for Tyler was, that lifestyle, and for you was a different one. But what kind of questions should someone that's listening to the podcast ask, like, in order to find what their purpose or their why or their rules are?
I think lots of questions, I think if you're constantly evaluating, and if you've got good friends and family that can help you evaluate, and, I have a life/business coach that I meet with on a regular basis that helps ask me those questions. And one of the things he did at an event I did with him recently, he said, what would your future self want to tell you right now? Yourself from 1 year from now. What kind of advice would they give you and how would they want you to live? And I really love that because he said they know what you need. And so what is that? And asking that question of, myself in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, what do they know that I need? Because one thing I'm so grateful for my extremeness is the person, the me 1 year, 5 year, 10 years would say, look, like, you have limited time with some people that mean everything to you. You have a limited window where your kids are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you never get back, and you're going to want to have the freedom for that time. If you had to choose between spending time as a single guy out in the summers or this person, you're going to want to spend it this way. And that's not going to be that way for everyone, but for me, I'm really glad that that was my vision with my family, my kids, and I always had this preparation of I want to be prepared to give them everything if I need to. And so I think talking to your future self is a good way to ask questions to figure that out.
One thing that I think it's important for people to know is that you've always wanted what you want. And I think what I mean by that is you always said, Court, like, I'm going to go work hard and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to be the most present dad there ever was. And I'm going to coach my kids. You guys did you guys win, by the way?
It's tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow night. Yeah. You guys have the flag football championship for how old is Ren?
So they're Ren and Will are 6.
So you're for your 6-year-old together. And you always said when we were doing sales, Court, I'm going to do this now and I'm going to go be with my kids. And I was like, BS, dude, there's no way that you're just going to be able to turn off this type of ambition where we're going to go make a ton of money and just go be with your kids. And I think the problem is that if somebody is not clear on what they want and they're really clear on what the world wants for them and put all of their energy into that, then they'll never get to this is what I want, and be able to make quick decisions and hold to those decisions because it's what somebody else wants for them, not what they want for themselves. And they haven't given themselves permission to want that. Chan, can you talk us through, you shared a lot about Maddie, maybe just the couple-minute version of what happened, and I have a couple follow-up questions around that, how your mindset and perspective changed before and after Maddie's diagnosis.
Yeah. So I had reached a point in my life where the dream life that I wanted, where I said, this is everything I would want, we'd hit it. We were building our dream home. We had the ability financially for me to step away and give everything to my family, and everything felt like for my dream it had come together. And my brother Peyton, he was on your podcast, incredible human, love and look up to him like crazy. He was diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma, and that just wrecked me. Like, it was this completely unexpected, crazy, and everything that's going to happen to you. And I was in a really, really bad place. And Maddie, my wife, she is incredible through everything, all the sacrifices we made through my career, through life, through kids, like my best friend, just the best. And she was the same for that as we dealt with Peyton's diagnosis and the way that she showed up for me and for Peyton. During that time, she had been having some weird bowel things going on, and we thought it was just, abnormal, but hopefully an easy, quick fix. And so she had already scheduled an appointment for colonoscopy just a couple weeks after Peyton's diagnosis. And so we almost didn't even ever go to it because of everything that was going on, but got it done. I'm just super depressed, worried about figuring out Peyton, what he was going to do, treatment, trying to be there for him and his family. And so I go in to meet with the doctor with Maddie after the colonoscopy, and they tell us that she has colon cancer. And I'm just like, looking back, I didn't even process it because it was so surreal. Like, cancer hadn't even been on my radar at all, and now my brother has it and Maddie has it. And so I think we kind of just jumped into the mentality that we'd had with everything else of, hey, we've got this, we can figure it out after being knocked down. And so we did everything we could to just be optimistic, dive into treatment. We were pushing everyone super hard to get the surgery moved up, get the treatment moved up, expedite it as much as we could, do whatever we could. And so we just went into do mode, and Pate got through treatment, Maddie got through treatment. We got to the end, and they told us that both of them were going to be good and that the cancer was gone. And obviously we need to get regular checkups, but hopefully we wouldn't deal with it again. And we knew with both their cancers, but especially Maddie's, there was a risk of it coming back. And I think we were really tormented with that. It's a really, really hard thing. And it's hard to even explain how you get back to healthy, but every day you wake up and there's now this new fear of, is it going to come back? And so I feel like, for the next 6 months, I had completely stepped back from work. We just filled it with travel and fun and time with the kids and doing everything that we could, just realizing how short life is and feeling like we'd been blessed with another life after this horrible thing. And I really felt like, especially Maddie leading the charge, we'd figured out how to carry the weight of the worry of the worst case and it coming back. And we went in for regular blood work about 6 months after she'd been told she was cancer-free, and the blood work had spiked. And so we didn't know where it was, but again, we were optimistic. We'd hope we'd figure out where it was. And so we waited a couple weeks before something finally showed up, and we went in and they told us that it was terminal and that she had 6 months to a year to live. And I don't know. You can imagine trying to process that. It just didn't make sense. I think too, just with life, I'd done what I'd considered were hard things, and there was always a solution. There was always a way to find the positive. There was always a positive outlook. And so that was the only thing we knew. And so we just dove into, there has to be another way. There has to be an alternative treatment. We met with tons of doctors. I reached out to every potential connection that I had. I reached out to you guys, all my friends, and we just dove into researching and trying to find the best alternative treatment. And there was one that we really felt like would give her a chance. And so we jumped into it, and Maddie stayed extremely optimistic and hopeful. I think the one thing that was so unique about her is so many doctors just said, I've never seen someone with a terminal diagnosis just so happy and positive, and even to the degree of trying to make us feel better about her diagnosis, because she can tell, just this beautiful, woman in her 20s that shouldn't be dealing with a terminal cancer diagnosis when she has 2 kids and this beautiful life and family and outlook. And she was worried about them and them stressing about her. That was just the person that she was. When people would ask her how she was doing, she wanted me to say we're doing great, because we were making every day count. And she just set such a tone of optimism through all of it. And she kept that literally up until, the whole way through. And then once we were at the end where she was put on hospice, even the week before that, she sent me a text. She was in a lot of pain, and I was in the other room with kids while she was trying to get sleep. And she texted me and said, Chan, I just know we're going to beat this. Like, that was just her mindset with it, with this terminal diagnosis and all these crazy things happening in her body. And she just had this crazy hope that was so inspiring to watch her go through this. And, then within a week of that, we were in, because all of her bowels, the cancer had closed in on everything, and they said she's got days to live, and she was put on hospice. And she pivoted from being hopeful to worrying about us, telling us what we needed to hear, that, all those heavy conversations of, what she expected for me. And she told me, focus on the kids, and pretty soon you'll start living for you again. And she told me that she wanted me to get back to a place where I could find love, and she wanted me to keep living and to make the most of life, and just to be in the place where she knows she's gonna die. And she had that immediate shift to, again, thinking about us, and just, I don't know, just so much grace through all of it until she passed away. And I think that really set a tone and an expectation for me and the life that I wanted to live. But even with that being said, Maddie was my world. She was my dream. That was, our dream. And none of it made sense. And there was nothing that could or would ever make it right, because she should be here raising her kids, and they should get to have life with her. And it doesn't make sense, and it never will. And it will never not be heavy and unfair and unjust in so many ways. And so, that's, I don't know if you want me to stop there, but I was in a bad place after that, and a hole that I at the time didn't know that I was going to get out of.
I wish everyone could meet a Maddie in their life, but she is the only one to ever live that was Maddie. And your guys' relationship is enviable. I loved, we got to see you guys. I got to see you unbelievably obsessed head over heels with her, and then her dump you the night after you guys first went on a date, and then start dating again. And I'm trying to remember exactly how Pate worded it when he was on the podcast, but something along the lines of one of the people he follows on YouTube said something that he hates, and he said it. The guy says it in a trying to motivate people. When you're gone, no one's going to remember you, so just live the best life. And obviously that's not true. The impact doesn't stop. Chan, can you talk about how the focus of, if it did, what the focus of your life was in those 3 stages: pre Peyton and Maddie diagnosis, in remission, and then post losing Maddie?
I think, well, first of all, I think when everything goes right, it's so easy to lose sight of what's important. And I really have always known the most important thing to me was my wife and kids and family. But that didn't mean I didn't lose sight of it and have moments where I prioritized the wrong things. And even, found reasons to not be grateful. We had it all. And as much as I wanted to consider myself humble and grateful before Maddie's diagnosis, I think there's a lot of me that was selfish and lacking gratitude. That Jessica shares a quote a lot, that with grief and hard things, you'd wish the experience on no one but the perspective on everyone. And I think that's very true for the early on me. I think the post-cancer me, I really learned how, like some of that, to be grateful and to focus on the right things. But I think a big lesson from that window is just how hard it is after something hard has happened to get out of the worry of more hard things happening. And so that's one thing that, I haven't really thought about it or talked about it, but I just now just live every day like it's my last, and it's such a heavy reminder with Maddie, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but Jessica's story of losing the loved one she has, where every day we wake up with this massive weight that we've gotten really good at carrying, that it's hard to get too far off track. It's hard to dwell or worry or fear of the future, and even hard to dwell too long on what's happened, because we just feel like life is so fragile and right now is all we've got. And I think living from that perspective, it doesn't mean I don't go off track and say and do dumb stuff, but I think I'm so much quicker to get back to the right place with everything and recognize it in myself and not stay. I just don't stay in a bad place for long, because that's not becoming of me. It's not becoming of the experience I've had. It's not becoming of what Maddie would expect of me. And so I think it's just a lot easier to self-correct in living presently. And everyone's going to fall off. And I'm sure there will be a time where, you know, the distances of me self-correcting get further and further apart. I hope that's not true, but that's just life. You just get into habits, and you get into, I don't know, forgetting the things that are most important. But that's one that I really hope I can focus on, living presently and having that perspective.
You don't know this, but Carlos's dad passed away from cancer.
I watched the podcast with Pate, so I kind of knew coming in a little bit, and I'm so sorry. I don't know. There's nothing to say, right? Like I think that's another thing I've learned is there's no right thing other than I'm just sorry.
Can I ask you a question to both of you guys? I know this is a business podcast we're talking about, but we want to hear the stories of the people that have grown. Both of you guys, I've seen you continue forward and make so much of your lives after these horrible, awful things. Can you just walk through any tips or tricks or methods or your experience with processing?
Did you want to go?
I can go first, so you can.
Yeah, go for it.
That's a good question. And before I even answer that, Chandler, I have an immense amount of respect for you, man. I don't think I've ever told even Court this, but when I decided in 2020 that I decided to sell with Aptiv, just kind of taking a couple steps back here, you were the reason why I said yes to those guys, because I was like, are these guys legit? So I went on YouTube, and there are videos of you and meet Kevin, and I was like, cool, this is legit. I decided, so way before I met Cord, and then I kind of, everything that happened with you and Maddie, I kind of followed through Cord and through, social media, and just an immense amount of respect for you, man. And
thank you.
Grateful to be in a room with you. It's so weird because it's been 4 years that I've kind of been following your journey, and now we're meeting in person for the first time. I feel like I know you. Like, I heard so much through Court, and but grateful for all the things you shared. To me, the biggest thing that helped me process Court was actually something that you said. So my dad had skin cancer like 4 years ago, and he got through chemo, he got through treatment, and then it went away. And then I was playing soccer with him in July, and then later that month he went to visit his father, who was also dying, and on that trip he got COVID, and COVID lowered his immune system, and then the cancer that was contained spread to the whole body, and then in 2 months he passed. And it was just, I couldn't believe it, right? Like, I was playing soccer with him 2 months prior to him passing. And then actually the day that he passed, I was here in the US. So I was living in Brazil at the time, and then he was getting better, everything was looking good, and then I was taking good care of him with my mom. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna go on this work trip. It's okay, like, he's getting better. It's okay for me to take a week, and go there. The day I get here, he passed. So I'm here, and I have to fly back to Brazil. that was the worst 24 hours of my life, because then I'm just alone in a plane, and I just heard the news that my dad passed. And I got this text. I was in Panama, and I got this text from court saying, just allow yourself to punch things when you want to punch things, and cry when you are feeling like you should be crying, and smile when you feel like smiling. Don't feel bad that you want to smile and laugh, and don't feel when you're also suffering. Don't judge yourself that you're suffering, and you should actually be all right. I know that there's a plan, and I can't be sad about this. Just allow yourself to be present in the moment and feel whatever you want to feel. And then it was in court's message, and it was about also you talked about how you had lost Blair and your dad. And court said the only way to take pain out of life is to take joy out of life. So just allow yourself to feel everything. To me, that was the best advice I had. And then, later that day in the plane, I just allowed myself to cry. Later, the next day, I just allowed myself to be mad at things. And in allowing myself to feel the things that I wanted to feel at the moment without judging my feelings, allowed me. It wasn't perfect. I feel like I still judge my feelings, but that was the best advice I had, and the best thing that has helped me process everything that happened. So I feel like I've thanked you a lot for this, but thank you again. But to me, that's the best advice that I received, and that I would give. I don't think you can ever give advice to someone that's going through this, but if there is one, it's to just allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, and don't judge your emotions, your feelings, and I think it gets a little easier to process everything. So that's my take, and it allowed me to. I feel like I haven't moved on and processed the whole thing yet, but processed everything a little bit faster.
Love that.
Thanks for sharing that, Carlos.
That was a long answer, sorry, but
no,
I'm excited to hear yours, Chandler.
No, I think it's so interesting because Court told me something similar, and I think that is very helpful because you don't know what to feel. Like, your emotions are so going wild, and so you end up feeling a lot of guilt for this wild array of emotions. And I remember multiple times just being grateful that Court had told me that, of like, just have permission to feel whatever you're feeling. Like, you don't have to be angry at yourself that your body's pushing endorphins and all of a sudden you're feeling good when you shouldn't be feeling good at all. And you don't need, like, if you just any of those emotions, giving yourself permission to feel them, I think was really helpful. I think too there were a couple other things. The one quote I shared earlier, if you can't live the dream, live the theme. I'm a real believer that if you live the theme long enough, at some point you can find a new dream. And that's something that I wouldn't want to hear right after Maddie passed away. Like, I wouldn't want someone to say, hey, you'll find a new dream, because my dream was over. My life was over. Like, everything that mattered to me, it felt like was gone. And I still have my kids, and so I hate saying that, but it just felt like my life was over. And so I didn't want someone to tell me, hey, you're going to make it through. You're going to get back. Because none of that was going to make me feel better. But what did make me feel better is, like, if you can't have the dream, live the theme, and just do the best you can. And for me, showing up for my kids, loving them, spending time with them, those things were really good. I think the other thing, I didn't want someone to tell me there was a fix, because I knew there never would be a fix for Maddie not being here. But Jessica told me it doesn't get any easier. Like, it's never going to get easier. The pain is never going to lessen, but you will get better at carrying it. And that was really helpful for me too, because everybody that wanted to tell me it was going to get better, or I was going to work through it, or whatever, it just pissed me off, because my life had ended, where the thought of, like, hey, it doesn't, was almost comforting, but, like, you can eventually get to the point where you can carry it, was also like a positive message, but not one that felt, I don't know, like it was minimizing the kind of loss that I'd just gone through.
Tell us a little bit about Jessica. When did you meet her?
Yeah. So it was not very long after Maddie had passed away. And, you know, Maddie had passed. I'd done the funeral. I'd been raising kids for a couple months. And I think the thing that's interesting about grief that you don't realize is it's with you all day, every day. Like, it never lets up, it never breaks, and it honestly alters time, where you just are going over the same thing over and over and over and over. And I remember calls with you, Peyton, Garrett, where it's just like, I've reached a point where I'm like, I have to do something. I have to find some solution, because the life I'm living I can't stay in this place. It's not possible. And I've always been a fixer, but there was no fix for this problem, right? And so after talking with Nate, our life coach, and friends and family, I just decided that I needed to talk to someone else who'd been through what I'd been through. And I was on a hike with my kids, and randomly this lady comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, your wife died recently." And I'm just like, what is wrong with you? Like, who are you? And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. My husband died, and you know, this is me and my 3 kids." And then immediately I went from like, what is wrong with you, to like, oh, like you just are desensitized. Like, you've been through this. And I talked to her, and there was just this massive weight lifted of like, man, there are other people, and her life is still sad and hard and difficult, but like, she's still doing it. And I think that was the moment where it just kind of clicked that I needed to talk to other people in my situation. And so there are so many impactful people that I got on the phone with. One of them, his name's Brandon, that he'd lost his wife to cancer. Kim, that had lost her husband, and others that I got to talk with. And I sent a text to Jessica because I had known her story in our town, and Garrett and honestly other people had said, "Hey, you should talk to them. Like, they've been through it." And so she was one of them that I messaged and just said, "I don't know how to do this. Like, how do you make sense of life?" And she agreed to talk with me. And the first time we talked, like, I just talked about Maddie. I just vented. I said all the things that I was mad about and that were unfair, and I cried. And she's just like, "Yeah, it sucks. Like, there's no good answer. I don't have anything positive to tell you." She just got it like everyone else did. I think people that hadn't been through it wanted to try and, you know, tell me how I was going to make through and how I was going to fix it. And she's like, "Yeah, it just sucks. Like, it never gets better. It never lets up, but you get better at carrying it. And that's all you can do." And so it was this weird combination of just, she got what I was going through, and also she was living this really incredible life. And so I guess I should probably tell her story. But I think what makes her story so crazy is I can't even comprehend how she's done what she's done. She was pregnant and had 2 kids, Hanley and Will, and she was pregnant with her 3rd. And her husband, Tyson, were out at dental school in Seattle. And their family had a tradition every Thanksgiving where they got together as a family. And one of the days, all of the men in the family went pheasant hunting. And so they got on a plane and went out pheasant hunting. It was her husband, her 3 brothers, her dad, her grandpa, her uncle, and her cousins. and her brother-in-law. And on the way back, there was a horrible accident, and the plane went down. And she lost her husband, her dad, 2 of her brothers, grandpa, uncle, cousins, brother-in-law. She was pregnant, and her sister Alexis also had 2 kids and was also pregnant. So they get news that their dad, brothers, husbands, almost all of the men in their family are gone. By some miracle, her younger brother survived, was super beat up. So her mom rushes out to be with him. It's hard to even comprehend all that she's been through. Gathering her stuff from Seattle, coming home, having a baby on her own, being a single mother of 3 kids with a family that's desecrated, really. And she did it, and was a single mom for 4 years. And then that's when I connected with her. And, at first, I think we both just loved having someone to talk about Maddie and Tyson with. And then, you talk about parenting and single parenting, and you talk about your values and your morals and how you want to show up for me, for Maddie, her for Tyson, in the way that you parent, and the kind of person you want to be through things and all the miserable, hard, difficult, the list of things you have to deal with that you don't think about as a single parent and losing your spouse. And there are just so many things that I don't need to talk about here, but that you didn't know play into family dynamics and relationships and just so many hard things. And so at first it was connecting on all of those things, and then pretty soon just seeing how similar our views and goals and even our relationships. I really love and look up to Tyson and the man that he was and the husband that he was and the parent that he was. And I know Jess feels the same about Maddie. And so it was also one of those things where we just both had really, really incredible marriages and lives and goals and dreams, and they were all just wiped out. And so, I don't know, really quick, there was a very unique connection on so many levels, and I think both of us wanted nothing to do with it because it's like that wasn't on our radar. But we love talking, and pretty soon you get the kids together, and they're all the same ages. They're all incredible. And they fall in love, and we fell in love, and for having such tricky, difficult, intricate situations, it really was a miracle, and all the pieces seemed to fit so perfectly. And so we dated and then ended up getting married, and now we're a family of 7, and it's pretty unreal how incredible all the kids are, and how incredible our relationship is, and our love is, and our life is. And it's, I don't know, my life's been pretty nonsense, and the weight that we carry and the way that we help each other carry it and the life that we're living is just wild, but a very cool, special, big blessing. So that was a long answer, but Jess is just incredible. And I think I was just so convinced that I would never remarry for a little window. And I think it was because Maddie had been through so much, and she was so mature because of the life experience she had. And, I think looking at Jess, like, feel the same way. The person she's chosen to be through hard things is just incredible. And I don't know. Yeah, she is incredible, and this whole thing is just wild. But I'm very, very grateful and very blessed.
Finding Maddie was a lightning strike, man. She was phenomenal, and lightning struck twice. And you found Jess, man. It was fun to get to know her more this last month up at the cabin.
It's really fun. It's been fun, especially when we got to spend time together, because Maddie and Court and my brother Peyton, like, if you get them all together, it's just a tag team of making fun of me, joking with me, picking on me. You throw Garrett into the mix, and it's like incomprehensible. And it's so funny with Jess too, because immediately her and Court are picking on me, and I'm just like, man, how does this happen? It's great, but
we got to team up against Court, Chandler. I do have a question for you, and a few things that you said. Again, just thanks for sharing all of those things, man. Just I can say how much I respect you. A few things that you said reminded me of these, and it's kind of funny, but I actually saw this yesterday. There's this line from The Office where, Dwight and Ryan come out of an office, and Ryan just sucked at this sale, and then he's like, I don't get it. Like, what did I do wrong? What should I don't know if you guys have seen it, but then Dwight just looks at him. Hey, Ryan, not everything is a lesson, man. Sometimes life just sucks. I don't know if those are the exact words that he used, but and I've for a long time I look at this funny scene from a show, but like it hits home sometimes, and I kind of want to hear your take on that, because you did say, like, this just sucks. Is there always a lesson to be learned? Was there it's a silly question and probably unfair, but was there some lessons learned along this last few years for you?
I think you find what you look for. And Nate, he always talks about the unexpected benefit. He'll ask me when things have been hard, what was the unexpected benefit? And I think in any situation, you can find an unexpected benefit. I think sometimes when we try to find the unexpected benefit, we're tempted to feel guilty that we're trying to find the lesson or the benefit in something that really never should have happened. And it was horrible, right? It's something that I would never wish on anyone. And I think what I've realized is, if you, in any hard thing, in any difficult thing, in any situation, there really is a right and a wrong way. And maybe right and wrong isn't correct, but one thing you'll hear a lot with grief is there's no right way to do grief. But as I've looked at it, there is I'm a victim and I need special treatment, and I'm miserable, and all of these things that you're completely justified in. You are. And there are windows of grief for everyone that they'll feel these things, they'll express these things, and they'll be justified in doing it. But at some point you have to decide, is this at any point going to help you become the person you want to be, lead to a beneficial life, lead to anything positive or beneficial? And I think that's what was really, really hard about coming to terms with Maddie being gone, is it's very tempting to want to be miserable, to say, I deserve to be miserable, and like, I want people to know how miserable I am and how I can't go on without her, and but all those thoughts, whenever I think them, feel them, try to express them, I realize that what do you gain from it? Like, what do you get out of being that person? And unfortunately, there's nothing other than more misery and more sadness and that so it's like then the alternative is finding the unexpected benefit, trying to learn the lesson, trying to progress, trying to still become the best version of yourself, even against opposition and judgment. And I think that's the other thing that has been so crazy to me is, I have a YouTube channel with a following of 260,000 people, and I want to get back into YouTube, and I want to share my story and be honest and explain why I was gone. And I share that, and the horrible things people come at me for making this decision to choose hope and faith and love and all of these things that I know the alternative is going to give my kids a worse life, going to give me a worse life, going to give the people around me. Like, there's no benefit to being miserable longer. But the world pushes that and judges, and I think just coming to terms with the fact that you get to choose the life you want to live and how you want to handle things. And unfortunately, even though I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, you have to come to terms with the fact that one of them leads up and one of them leads down. And so back to your original question, maybe there's not a lesson in everything, but I think if you try to find one, you're probably going to be better off.
I love that. Thanks, man.
Chan, 15 years from now, you're going to be 49 years old. Oof. Right before 50. What do the next 15 years look like for you and Jess and your 5 kids?
I think I've always had this big vision and dreams, and it's been very dialed in. And I think the next 15 years will be as well. But there's a lot of it that I've got to figure out what that looks like. I think the thing I do know is I'm going to show up and be the best husband that I can. And I'm going to fall short, but I'm going to do everything I can to be incredible there. And I'm going to be the best dad that I can to all 5 kids. And I'm going to show up in every way that I possibly can for them. And again, I know I'm going to fall short, but I think those things I want to make a huge priority. And down from there, I want to have an impact. I want to help other people live the life that they want to live intentionally. And I want to be able to share perspectives so that they, without going through what I've gone through or what Jess has gone through, hopefully figure out what's most important to them and make it a priority and live accordingly. And I want to do that with the people that I love, my friends, my family. And I think building my life around kind of those pillars and then just being the best version of myself, however that pans out, I'm going to be really happy with. I think there's going to be a lot of time with family and kids and sporting events. I think there's going to be a lot more real estate purchases because it's something I enjoy, and I love teaching people that so that they can have the kind of time and financial freedom that I do. And I think there's going to be a lot of hopefully interacting with people at events and a community of some kind and a nonprofit organization of some kind. I think all of those things will be pieces in it, and a lot of those we've started to implement, and a lot of them we have plans to implement that we're kind of figuring out as we go.
Can we wrap with 2 more questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give them both to you. You can choose the version of Chandler that you're sitting across from, but an earlier version of Chandler. What advice would you give him? And then the second question is that 12 months from now, Chandler, if you can channel him, what advice would he give you?
It's interesting because I think the first thing that comes to the past Chandler, and it's even knowing the horror that would be in front of him, is just stay hopeful, because it doesn't matter how bad it gets, the alternative to staying hopeful is going to be worse. And so just stay hopeful. And then the future Chandler, probably just love on those kids. I think, I don't know. That would be a big one because I've got lots of opportunity to do that over the however much future, and I want to make the most of that. So that was probably the first thought that came to me. I don't know. Hopefully those are all right.
It's been amazing, Chandler. So many thoughts, and I won't go into all of them. Just a ton of gratitude for you sharing the perspective with us. And it's midnight right now, people. It's after midnight. and you're doing a public. It's 12:15 in the morning, and you're speaking tomorrow morning at a real estate event. You're amazing to do this. We really appreciate it. It's elevated and made our lives more expansive.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chandler.
It's a wrap.
Thank you.